Everyone, thank you for joining us for the next episode of CrossTalk. I, as always, am your host, Cat Leigh. We have our intrepid producer, Elizabeth Holdhouse, with us behind the scenes, and today we have Scott Thompson somewhere down the road in Connecticut.
Yeah, we're in Waterbury, Connecticut, Cat. Not that far away,
Close. Just
but
up
it
the,
is somewhere down the road.
somewhere down the road. Exactly. How you doing, Scott?
Doing well, Cat. Thanks so much, and I trust you are too. I know we
I
talked a little bit earlier, but you're healing up, and that's good.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, I was out for surgery the last few weeks. That's why we've been doing the retro videos for the last couple of weeks. But doing good now. So Scott is the lead singer for a group called the Blameless Project. Now, how long have you guys been together?
We actually started in October 2014 was when I took the vision and started, forming the band and so we are coming up now on our 11th birthday
Wow.
in October. October 14th will be
Yeah,
11. So yeah, over 10 years now.
that's awesome. And how many albums?
Three albums on every format. You can find our stuff on every format. Spotify, Apple Music, you name it, Amazon, everywhere.
So describe your music to me.
Well, that's such a great question. So our music, we are a rock band and we are a Christian rock band. So it's my influences, and this is really a reflection of my age, is, I grew up I went to high school in the 70s, put it that way, and then, continued just being in music all through the 80s and everything. So you can hear it when you hear our music, some of that, late 70s throughout the 80s type influence in our music, and so it's rock music. But the only difference is that when it comes to our content, and I mean lyrically, our content is uncompromised Bible. That's it. It's the Word of God, and so it's and I know this is kind of like taking a little bit of a turn off of your question, just answering, what kind of music do we play?
We go
But
wherever you go.
and I appreciate it. In 2012, I was sitting in the front row of at church and listening to our pastor preach on part of the message was on the word blameless. And so I kind of got the idea about, how important that word is and what it really means. Do a word study on blameless, and it's incredible in the Bible. Um, and then got vision for the band, but also part of that was this. I've been a worship leader since I got saved. And I got saved back in 1986, and I've pretty much been participating in, worship ministry since then. And as a songwriter, I was always trying to write that next Chris Tomlin song or that next Michael W. Smith song, or trying to emulate somebody else's music. And then in 2012, at that same time, when I was listening to the message about blameless, God spoke, I know he was speaking to my heart. And I'm not saying audibly, I'm just saying he just put something on my heart where he said, when I made you, I didn't make a mistake. Be who you are. The sound that's in you, let it come out. Don't try to be someone else. Be who you are. And from there, we became the Blameless Project and started writing, recording, and that's what we've put out. So, but we're a rock band and we're Christian.
I'm laughing because you are about as polar opposite as from Michael W. Smith as possible.
Totally. Totally. He
He,
did have some
I
cool
love,
edge of
go ahead.
rock stuff in the 80s. He had some pretty cool stuff, but
He
totally.
started out okay, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I always say Michael W. Smith, I love him. His lyrics are impeccable, absolutely beautiful, but he never fails to bore down a good song.
Yeah.
In my humble opinion, as one who edges more towards the rock style as well.
Yeah. No, I
Like,
tend
why
to
put an
agree.
electric guitar when you could put a string section?
Oh, I know. And a whole orchestra. Yeah. Yeah, polar opposites. We'll leave it at that, right, Kat?
That's right. That's right. Michael, if you ever watch this, we love you and we respect
Totally.
everything you do
Yep.
for
Totally.
taste.
Totally. We'll see if that makes the cut.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I know he'll listen. He's he's going to be tuning in. He's waiting for this episode. I know he is.
Absolutely. There's no question. He's like, it's about time.
Right. When were you going to have Scott Thompson on?
That polar opposite guy. Oh, that's
Yeah,
great.
you on stage is something to behold. For those of you who have not had the opportunity to see a Blameless Project concert, um, Scott is the you are like the epitome of frontman.
Thank
You were just, whenever you get the chance, you are all over that stage. You remind me of the lead singer for Journey, their current one that literally runs from edge to edge and is just like climbing up the rafters while he's singing. I don't know how he does it, but
you. Yeah.
you
As much
remind
stage as I have, I'm using it.
me. Yeah. If I had half your energy, I would be doing much better than I am now.
It's music, it's the spirit of God and music all at the same time.
That's so cool. Well, let me go back because I
Sure.
ask this of every guest. You kind of touched on it. What brought you into worship ministry?
Well, all my life I've been, musically inclined and drawn to music. Started mostly with singing. I think when I was like 10 years old, I was at my best friend's house across the street, and his dad would be playing Christmas carols on the piano. We'd kind of gather around and sing, and I'd start hearing and then singing a harmony. And he's like, "Where did you learn how to do that?" I didn't learn how to do anything. I'm just doing what I hear in my head. And so the singing thing, but then musically, I was always drawn to rock music, that style of music, something with, I used to call it tough music, power music.
Okay.
And, bands like Grand Funk Railroad, of course, the Beatles, and then Led Zeppelin, and like you mentioned, Journey, all those bands, I was drawn to that music young. And then in high school, um, the singing thing, I was always kind of singing to music when I drive in the car. I wouldn't just listen, I would participate.
Hmm.
And so I got involved in music and started playing in bands and cover bands and all that kind of stuff. And then fast forward to 1986, and my wife Shelley, who you've met,
Hmm.
she was actually the one that led me to Jesus, and um, which is another story which we can tell later if we have time. But she led me to Jesus, and naturally joining a Christian church that offers, live worship before the preaching and all that, like we both have in our church services.
Hmm.
Um, I was drawn to the worship ministry, and so I got involved in my first church, and which happened to be Shelley's dad was the pastor, and
Okay.
so that was really cool. And it was there that I also started. I play drums too, and I started playing drums and singing from the drums, and somebody else would be on guitar and singing, and we kind of introduced a little percussion to the worship and made it a little bit upbeat. But that's really where it all started, and then I started discovering different expressions and different. When I first got saved, I thought for musically, I thought it was going to be kumbaya for the rest of my life. I had no clue. No
Oh,
clue. No clue. So the music thing was already there, getting saved and then getting introduced to the church format and how we quote unquote have church,
hmm.
and with worship ministry, it was like just kind of a no-brainer. I just automatically was drawn to it, and then just blessed to be able to jump on board and be in it, and it's been nonstop ever since 1986.
Wow.
Yeah.
And your father-in-law, as the pastor, he was right there with you, going
Yeah.
with the contemporary, and that's awesome. A lot of
Yeah.
people had to fight for that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the expression, having that kind of expression, it was like it was just cool because if done with if it's done I don't know how else to say it, but done well. It's
I
amazing how people will
say
be
with
like,
reverence.
well, what I thought was going to be kind of crazy, maybe it wasn't so crazy. It's in
Yeah.
fact, this is really cool because it's genuine, you know. It didn't just express that way to express that way. It's, you
Hmm.
know, I'm just expressing from the place, you know, how God made me.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I say it's irreverent reverence. You
Yeah,
know, it's like we're not worried about what they did 100 years ago. That's the irreverent part of it. But using what God gave us and who he made us to be to give that back to him. Like,
absolutely.
yeah, I am not a kumbaya girl either. And yeah, for me to sing hymns, it was almost torture.
Yeah,
You know, if
yeah,
that was all there was, I'm not saying there's anything wrong, and I've said this before. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with a hymn, and I love, you know, using them, sprinkling them in. But if that's all we're limited to is hymns and a piano, I'm bored to tears.
yeah. Same here, and it's where a funny thing about music, you know, it's like God when He makes us again. And I say this even in one of our songs, "One of a Kind." It's a
Mm.
song about how God, when He made you, He drew the blueprint. And He didn't make a mistake. He wasn't having a bad day,
That's
right?
right.
He made you, and
Yeah.
the and what's in you, God put it there. You know, the
Yeah.
things that you're attracted to. You know, we're both attracted to a rock style of music, and which is, you know, passion and energy and all that. And I understand that not everybody's drawn to that, but it's like I'm not going to judge one style of music over another, but I am going to tell you my preference,
Right.
you know, and I'm also going to present if I'm presenting music or doing something musically, worship or the band or whatever, it's going to be genuine. Whereas I was trying to become, this is where God corrected me in
Hmm.
2012, was I was trying to become like the next Chris Tomlin. I want my music to be like that because that's who, you know, the church is going to accept it. And I told you we have 3 records out. Well, I recorded a solo album back in 2000 called I Surrender. And
Hmm.
it was that album where I was really trying to emulate, you know, let's try to create a sound that's going to be, you know, more like what you're hearing on from a Chris Tomlin album or K Love or whatever.
Yeah.
And it still came out more with a rock edge. I tried, but, you know, God corrected me eventually. So,
Yep. Yep.
um, yeah, so it's pretty
Yeah.
cool though that we have all those expressions and they're all good.
I think we all go through that though. You know, we have to find our own voice and figure out who we are in this genre. Now, there are a
Very
lot of
cool.
years in between where you got saved and started with worship to where you started recording. Take me on that journey.
Yeah.
That
It
happened.
was that was really cool. It's a great question. Got saved in 86, you know, and started getting right into worship. In 1990, Shelley, and this was out in California where I got saved. That's where
Okay.
Shelley's from. And in 1990, we got the opportunity to, it was a job opportunity for me to move back here to Connecticut, which is where I grew up out here. And
Okay.
I'd been out in California pursuing secular music, basically. And, but God, in his overall plan, he knew that through that journey, I would meet Shelley, get saved, and come back here. So anyway, fast forward to the 90s and we get back to Connecticut and we ended up first in coming back to Connecticut, we ended up in New Milford and went to a church called Rock Church and which then became Christian Life Fellowship and then Bethel Church took it over. Or no, the other one from no, that church from Bethel. I can't remember the name of the church. Another one took it over. Anyway, back in the 90s, we're in it. And of course, I got into the worship ministry there right away. And the pastor of that church, our pastor at the time, would have other ministries that he knew of come in and, you know, and perform. And there was a ministry that he would bring in. They mostly were located down in Tennessee. He brought them up from Tennessee. 3-man male vocal group, you know, and they would sing to tracks. They're called Higher Ground. And I really dug them. They were really cool. Not my cup of tea musically, but they were really good vocally, and the message was fantastic. And so I got to know the guys, and then one of the guys in the group also on the side was involved in recording and production and all that. And I was telling him I've been writing songs, and I'd been recording songs, really just using my keyboard and tapping out melodies and recording the vocals into a computer. And again, this is back in the 90s, so it was like those old school Macs and all that stuff. And but I was doing whatever I needed to do to get the music recorded, and where it would go from there, I had no idea. I was just doing it. You know, it was something I just felt like I had to do. So I get into a conversation with one of the guys from the group, and he's like, "You should record an album." And I'm like, "Well, what do you mean?" And he goes, "Well, you know, I can help you with the musical tracks if you've got the basic, you know, stuff written, and then send it back to you, and you just sing to it, you know, bring it to another studio and sing to it." And that's what I did. And that's
Mhm.
where the album that I just told you about, the from 19 or from, it was 99 or 2000, um, the album called I Surrender came from. And that's where that whole journey of writing and recording and all that came from. And then it was fast forward 15 more years before we would start, you know, get back into a band situation, you know, because from that year 2000 and recording I Surrender, and then on up to 2012 was that whole a long time, you know, a dozen years of like trying to create a sound and a music that would be acceptable to the church, you know, and sound like Chris Tomlin and sound like the right way. And thank God he corrects us, you know. And
Yeah, thank goodness you threw that out the window.
yeah, yeah, because then it gave complete, you know, open door and opportunity for the Blameless Project to even happen.
Yeah.
And here we sit. So I hope that made sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love doing the deep dive and just hearing how the stories evolve and where they come from, because in that time you were also newly saved, newlywed, and starting a family. How many
Yeah.
kids do you have?
Three. Yep.
Yeah,
And
three.
one
Yeah.
one was already there when I met Shelly. So he
Okay.
was, I think, 3 or 4 when we met. We got married a year after we met. This is 86 we meet, 87 we get married.
In
90 we moved to Connecticut. And then uh, I think it was probably in the first few years coming back to Connecticut, we also I adopted Joel, our oldest son.
Mm,
And we had 2 kids. One of them right before we left California, our middle son James, and then we had Alyssa out here in Connecticut.
wow.
Yeah, and now we're grandparents.
Oh,
Thank
how
you,
many
Alyssa.
babies do you have?
Alyssa has given us 2 grandsons, so
Congratulations.
thank you. Yeah, so yeah, you're right though. A lot happened in between, and it brings up just a thought which I think would be probably appropriate just to share, in that when I first got saved and then got involved in worship out in California at Shelley's church, I instantly did try to start, you know, outside of the worship ministry, I tried to start a band. I tried to
Hmm.
get some guys together, and, you know, I had my electronic drum kit, and one of the guys on the worship team also played electric guitar, and he was into rock. And the two of us tried to start a band. Then we found a bass player, and we were writing a few songs and all that. And, you know, it never really went too far, but I was doing it. But one of the things that had happened was, and this is important in terms of, yeah, a lot of things going on, starting a family, having kids, in ministry, working your job. Well, you know, music, actually at that stage of the game, I was, we basically termed it as this, it became my mistress in a way, in
Ooh.
that I was spending a lot of time trying to get things going musically, even after I got saved, especially, you know, knowing that it wasn't going to just be kumbaya, you know, and it didn't set well, you know, at home for a long time. So those early years of marriage, learning how to, you know, balance that and be really a proper husband and father, you know,
Hmm.
according to the word of God, as opposed to pursuing my musical dreams and interests first. You know, I had to, we both, Shelly and I went through, you know, quite a time, in those years. But it speaks a lot. I know we're talking a lot about, the band and the music and worship and all that kind of stuff right now, but it's amazing how all the other aspects of your life become part of the story and then part of the testimony because um, you know, the early years they were hard. You look at us now and it's like, we've come a long way, baby. It's but it's only really because of the word of
There
God.
with you for every performance, cheering you on. I mean, she's great. Yeah.
Yeah,
But you've
she's
earned that.
she's everything, and I'm so blessed to have her as I went like this because she's like in the next room. But so you saw me pointing. But so blessed to have her and it's interesting how we have learned so much about marriage through this whole journey. And
Mhm.
now it's funny, you see the keyboards behind me and all that. Those are hers, those aren't mine. So, you know, we do this, we do just Scott and Shelley worship together. That's it. Acoustic
Yeah, you
guitar.
did tell me that you do this.
Yep,
And
we do that. And we look at each other every time and say, who'da thunk? 1986, 87, or late 80s, early 90s, we would never have we didn't even think that it would become what it's become now.
Mhm.
But we kept our eyes on the prize, in those early days. We kept our eyes on Jesus and we put everything through the filter of the Bible as best we could, and God's faithful.
I was gonna say, look at how he's blessed that.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
know, yeah, it's gonna be rocky because we're human, but
Yeah.
he knew your heart.
Exactly. The it's I say it all the time, it's tough being human, you know. It's tough being human, but with God, I mean it's like I know the word says all things are possible for those who love the Lord and we've if anybody ever wants to talk about it, we're more than happy to because we're kind of living proof.
Yeah.
Proof.
Yeah. So tell me about, tell me about how you guys met and how she brought
Hmm.
you to Christ. That sounds fascinating.
You ready for a good story?
Yes,
All
always.
right. So, did we hit record yet? Yes, we did. It's one of my favorite stories in the whole world to tell because it's our testimony. And yeah, I met Shelly back in California. I had moved out to California like 1983, 84, specifically to pursue music. I moved out with a former bandmate who has remained one of my best friends in the earth today. He's my guitar teacher. We went to high school together. He's a little bit younger than like 5 years younger than me, but still he's become he's always been like a brother, and his older brothers were like big brothers to me, and so we've been friends ever since. Anyway, we moved to California together to pursue music, and he was pursuing, one direction, more of a progressive rock, and I wanted to do more of the hair metal and all that kind of stuff when we got out there. But we went together and did that, and he ended up, doing really well and getting with a touring band and went all over the world. And for me, I found myself auditioning for, bands that I didn't really want to be a part of, and it just was I was losing the taste for it. And so my friend stayed in LA. I moved up to Northern California and because I have relatives in Northern California, and I stayed with my aunt and uncle for a little bit, and finally, got a job and got my own place and everything, and eventually, was just kind of living life, and it wasn't good. It was a lot of drinking, cocaine, everything. That's what I was doing back then. And one night, me and my then roommate, a whole nother guy out of I was sharing a house with a couple other guys, and me and one of the guys said, let's go out and take the last 20 bucks we have and get a couple of beers and see who's hanging out at this particular place. There was a new restaurant in this part of California that we were in called Fat Fanny's. And it was a restaurant which was a bar, a dance place, and a restaurant all in one. The waiters and waitresses dressed up in costumes, and it was like this big fad. And we thought, well, let's go check it out and see what was going on. We did. Um, got there and I'm kind of like hanging around the edge of the dance floor, and the dance floor was like a converted roller rink, with the boards, the hockey walls hockey board walls around it and everything, and
Yeah.
people are in there dancing, and the music was DJ music, so it was like top 40 80s dance stuff, the top 40 stuff. And I was just kind of like snubbing that.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're listening to that. And so I'm standing there, I'm looking, and I turn to the right and I look down and I see this really cute face. No lie. And we caught eyes and we smiled at each other, and that was Shelly. And so I was with a friend of mine, she was with a friend of hers. And she's a pastor's kid, by the way, at the time. She was just out
Mhm.
dancing, not causing any trouble, definitely not drinking or anything.
Yeah.
And so we caught each other's eyes and then turned back away. And I'm thinking, man, should I go over there? What should I do? I don't know. And suddenly her friend comes walking around and comes up to me and says, my friend thinks you're cute. Do you want to dance with her? And I'm like, yeah, I want to dance with her. Let's go. And so we danced and started talking, and then finally came off the dance floor and to have like a kind of try normal conversation. Hi, my name is Scott. My name is Shelly. La la la. And so I'm like, so what have you been doing all summer? This was September of 1986. And what have you been doing all summer? She goes, well, I've been going to church and raising my son. And I'm like, oh. And so inside in my brain, I'm thinking, please face, don't look like you care that she just said she has a son. Don't look like that's going to be a deal breaker. Please
Yeah.
face, cooperate. And so it did. And then I said, "Oh, going to church. Cool. What church do you go to?" And she goes, "Well, I go to Emmanuel Fellowship. It's a Christian church." And I'm like, "Christian." And then I'm going, "Christian, Christian. I'm pretty sure I'm a Christian. I'm Catholic because I grew up Catholic." And I'm,
Okay.
and I'm thinking this in my head, and I'm like, "Catholic." And then I go, "Well, I'm Christian too. I'm Catholic." And she looks at me, no lie. She looks at me and goes, "You're not a Christian. You don't know Jesus." Right to my face. And I'm
No
like,
hesitation.
wait a minute. And so our first real conversation was kind of an argument or kind of me getting corrected, however you want to, you know, uh, categorize it. But it was hilarious because we kept talking about it. And so then we hung out and we went over to another part of the bar, I guess, and where the pool tables were and tables and stuff. Um, and we just talking, sitting down, talking where it was a little quieter, getting to know each other a little bit. And I asked her for her phone number. She wouldn't give it to me. And so I wrote my phone number down on a card, and it was really corny because the cards said reserved. They were on these tables, and it
Mhm.
had these bubbles over the little round circles over the letters reserved. And so I was able to put my phone number in those little bubbles, and I said, "Here, this is reserved for you."
Oh,
Oh my God. And then I, hoped,
he
and I
called you?
didn't pray, but I hoped she would call me the next day.
After that corny pickup, she called you back.
Totally,
That's
totally,
awesome.
totally, totally,
You
totally
remember
corny.
each other.
It's hilarious. And so, but I did it. That was me. And so she took the card and everything. This was a Friday night. And little did I know that the one of the worship leaders from her church was babysitting her son Joel, which is now our son Joel, um, that night, that Friday night. And he was apparently really like in love with Shelly, this guy. And he was, while he's babysitting, he's writing a note. Oh my gosh, I can't believe you're out and you're maybe meeting somebody, blah, blah, blah. And so she comes home to that note. So the next night she goes out with him on Saturday night and basically says, look, I like you, but it's not like that. We're friends. It's not like that. And then the next day, the Sunday, she calls me.
Oh,
And we found out we both have dogs and we both live in the same neighborhood, like 3 streets over. Had no clue.
oh
It's
my
like, you
goodness.
live where? Oh my gosh, I'm right down the street. And so we said, all right, well, let's go meet at the park that's, right between our houses, basically. We met there with our dogs, saw each other in daylight for the first time, and, hung out for a few hours just talking and walking our dogs. And from there, it was like, oh my gosh, let's just keep this thing going. And A week later, we went up to Sacramento State University. Shelly and I went up to visit her friend and her friend's boyfriend. So imagine Shelly, a pastor's kid, saying, "Hey, I just met this guy at a bar and over the weekend, and next weekend we want to go up to Sacramento State and we're going to stay with my friend and her boyfriend up there." And
Yeah.
her parents are pastors. And so anyway, to explain the rest of the story, really the whole thing is like she's going to stay with her friend in her friend's apartment, and I stayed with her boyfriend in the boyfriend's apartment. But
Okay.
still, in a Christian house and stuff, it's like, what is my daughter doing? Oh my gosh. And it's a pastor's kid. And so all
Well,
pretty
how
funny,
old
but
were
we
you
went
guys?
away. We did go away for that weekend. And what happened was that weekend was she shared with me, it was a track. In those days, Bible tracks were really popular. Hand out a
Mhm.
track to, teach people, show people the gospel and just hand out as many as you can and hopefully lead people to Jesus. Well, she gave me a track, basic track about how Jesus bridges the gap between us and God. And it really made sense to me. And so on the way back from Sacramento on that Sunday, we went to church. I went to my first Christian church service with her dad as pastor. Her dad was, really built then and leather jacket and mustache. And I'm like, oh my gosh, is this guy going to beat me up? And anyway, he was the nicest guy in the world, still is. And I saw her mom there and I met the guy on the worship team that was in love with Shelly. And that was kind of awkward, but never experienced, such a great amount of love from a group of people that I didn't know. And so from there, I was like, there's something to this. Couple more days, I go to Shelly's house. I'm on my knees in her parents' living room, receiving Jesus as my Lord and Savior, and the rest is history.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that crazy?
That's really quick too.
We got married in a year. We met September 12th, 1986, got married September 5th, 1987.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Your anniversary is my birthday, by the way.
Well, happy birthday. If
Happy
I ever forget
anniversary.
that that's your birthday, now I'm in trouble.
I know. Watch, I will forget that it's your anniversary. I guarantee it. That's the way my brain works. It just doesn't.
I'm good at forgetting. Really good. Really good. Really good at it. I have no problem forgetting.
Perfected
You need
it
me
to
to
a
forget?
fine art.
I'll do it.
Well, you and I, so I've shared this philosophy before, but I don't know if you've heard this philosophy. You and I share the same malady in that my philosophy is that with every child you have, be it natural or otherwise, with every child that you are actively involved in rearing, your brain capacity drops by 50%.
Oh,
And it's
no doubt.
50% each time.
Yeah.
So we're both down to, on our best days, 12.5%.
Yeah, that's about what we have left.
Yeah. And those are on our best days. And it's
So
only
true.
because I've told that story so many times that I remember the number. Otherwise,
Yep.
I'd have to redo the math and it would take
Well,
me
I
a while.
have no argument with that. 12.5% it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's
See,
no
you'll use
question.
that someday. You know you will.
Oh, yeah.
See it. Oh, okay. Now you have two grandkids. So how
Yeah.
does that equate? Because I haven't gotten to
Well,
that stage yet.
you have more left than me. My number's lower than 12.5%. And I'll tell you why, Kat.
It
The
just keeps
um
getting
the
scary.
grandsons live right across the street. I mean,
Oh, wow.
literally right across the street. So if our daughter, son-in-law need anything, which they always do every day, um, and I say that with all love, we're over there and we're helping. But we do get to see our grandsons every day, which is a blessing. And it's just neat, watching them grow up and being a part of all that, and then being able to send them home at night. You know,
There's the key right there.
but
I
it
think
does
that's
it
fun.
does take something because they're always going through something and
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah, when our kids were little, I mean, I don't know what we would have done without my in-laws
right.
because my mother-in-law was available to come down and help us and she was 3 hours away. So,
Sure.
but
Wow.
she made that a priority. If we needed her for any reason, if I was sick, if I needed extra help with the kids, they were sick, whatever it was, even if we just wanted to do a weekend away, she was available for that and made herself lovingly available for that.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
I think I would be much more insane than I am today if
Yeah.
it wasn't
Well,
for my
that's
mother.
what we try to do. Mostly Shelly does it. She's helping my daughter often.
Yeah.
But there's we love it.
But I mean, that's awesome. What a blessing that you have that.
Yeah,
That's
it is. It is. It's really exciting.
That's huge.
Love it.
So, I mean, going back to 1986 now or 87 now. You've taken that year, you've gotten to know and love and plan a wedding and now all of a sudden you're newlyweds and you have an instant family with a 3-year-old.
Oh,
I mean, first off, how old were you at that point?
26, 27. Yeah. I
Okay.
turned 27 right after we got married. So in
Okay.
November of 87, I turned 27. So we got married, I was 26.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so um and that is just again, what a perfect question because my relationship with our oldest, his name is Joel, and he's
Hmm.
42 now, I think. Um, but our relationship initially, mine and Joel's, was horrible,
Mm.
horrible relationship. He wasn't ready to, have a man invade on his relationship with his mother. I
Right.
wasn't ready to be a dad, and didn't know how to be. And so we clashed for years, probably, probably until he was in his 20s.
Oh
We
my.
clashed. Yep, we totally clashed. It wasn't that I maybe 20s, yeah, yeah, 20, definitely 20s. But we clashed about everything. He grew up in the years where the kids started wearing really baggy pants below their waist and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah.
I didn't like it, and so I would, you know, just get on him for stuff like that, and I would nitpick at him, and we're really not supposed to antagonize our kids that way, and so anyway, through all that, I learned a lot about being a dad and what not to do.
Mhm.
But now we have an unbelievably awesome relationship, and it's one that, he's definitely become a prodigal that came back, and we
Mm.
share the word together all the time. He shares videos with me, of some of the people that he listens to, that share scripture and share messages online. And these little shorts, he'll share them with me and we'll go back and forth about them. He'll ask questions about, the word and about scripture. It's amazing how it is 180 degrees different than what it was when it first started. But let me tell you, the first, double digit number of years was really hard with our oldest son. Yeah. Becoming an instant dad.
Yeah. And
And
then having to deal with added siblings as well.
yep.
And that was hard on him too.
Yeah, that was harder on Joel because for me, I definitely entered into some type of favoritism. I don't know how you could describe it any other way, and
Well,
because I
you had more of
got
a choice.
myself involved with everything that my
Yeah.
son James went through and did everything with him, sports, everything.
Mhm.
Um, and and then with Alyssa, she's, got me wrapped,
Of course, Daddy's girl.
totally got me wrapped. And so it's just really amazing how over time, again, if you don't give up, if you don't quit, and
Mhm.
you seek the word, you seek God's word through all of it, there's an answer and there's a way to get it right. And there's healing and all of that. And so now it's like with our kids, I don't think we've ever been closer. And I'm not trying to sound like, oh my gosh, but it's just the truth. All of us, we've never been closer. It's amazing. God's so faithful.
Ah, that's it. I mean, that is so beautiful. You've got to know how good you've got it because
Yeah. I mean, being grateful for a lot of people. It's so true, Kat. What you just said just made me think that it's that one of the the hardest things for a lot of people. And we're believers, and we should know how to be grateful. Whether we have or we don't have, we need to know how to be grateful because God put breath in our lungs. Simple as that. And a lot of times we forget. We just forget, and we become more of the woe is me thing, and but that's so opposite of really what God's word and He Himself has to offer. So, over a long period of time, I've grown into that and realized that, and now it's like I spend time just trying to share that with people and help people. Anybody that God gives me the opportunity or privilege to share that with, I do.
That's huge. That's huge. I'm always blessed to meet especially dads who have been able to either from the get-go or at least to foster, like you have a good relationship with their children. Because that's such a integral part of my journey is that my dad didn't get it right and
Mm,
didn't put in the time, and he's just to put it short, he has a personality disorder. He's literally incapable of it. So there's no animosity. I just can't have a relationship with him.
makes sense.
And so it's so heartening to hear when it goes right.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's not for lack of hardship. I mean, you guys had, I
Oh,
mean, if he was in his 20s, you guys spent a lot of years, hard years. I mean, my gosh, through school, high school, all of that.
yep.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. It was it was through high school, and it wasn't till he's an artist, and
Mm.
just God made him that way, and he's really good. And he went
He's
to
got
art
that
school.
passion too.
Yeah, he went to art school in California. So and I was more than happy to get this done for him, but we got him a car. We got him. I wrote out a whole trip. We put him in his car, packed it up, and sent him on a journey to California, drive himself out there and get out there and go to school, which
Wow.
he did. Took out the student loans for him, set up the hotel stops and the whole thing, did all that. But honestly, part of it for me was like, oh, good. We're not living under the same roof anymore. You know, that was a big part of it. I'm being hero dad, getting him into school and all that kind of stuff. But if I'm to be honest, there was a part of that equation that said, whew, you know,
Yeah,
I'm free of having to do the interaction in person. But that was then.
right.
And it's like nowhere near that right now. And again, that was part of the healing process because, so much happened after all that. And him getting out to Los Angeles and then going through what he went through out there. And he went to school out there for a while, did not finish, came back. He's back, here in the North, in Connecticut now. And, but that whole process was kind of the beginning of when it all started kind of getting better, you know?
Yeah.
And, so, hey, it's just, that's how it all went, just
Wow.
being honest about it. But now it's a totally different thing. We talk all the time, minister all the time. And when we do family stuff, all of us get together. It's awesome.
Well, that just goes to show you how important it is to have God in there, and I
No other
think,
way.
yeah, exactly, exactly. And you know, it even though at the time you probably felt guilty for even thinking it, that, oh my gosh, thank goodness he's not in this same house.
God, yeah. I'm
Yeah,
just being
but
honest with what really went on inside of my mind and my heart.
no, I get it. I get it. Our oldest, our oldest Ray is 24 and also an artist.
There you
So
go.
yeah.
Artists
And
think differently, that's for sure.
artists have a passionate personality.
Yep.
And when you get two of them together who don't necessarily see eye to eye, yes, yes.
Oh yeah. That's the
So
flash thing for sure.
yes, exactly. And oh my gosh, when Ray was in high school, there were times when we were looking at Do we send them back to Ohio? Do we look at boarding school? What do we do? Because we need space. And they were right there with us. Because they're like, I need out of this house. Because
Oh,
as you can tell, I'm using the pronoun they. There was a lot of other things going on, not just the personality. There was a lot of confusion, gender confusion, things going on that none of us knew how to deal with.
right. Sure.
And so we had that extra layer, but at the core of it was the personality. I mean, I got when Ray was I want to say about 9, 8 or 9. Um they wanted to meet a friend up at the library. And now we were about 3 blocks away from the library. But it was a very crucial 3 blocks because the library was on the other side of a 4-lane divided road.
Oh boy.
And yeah, this is in Columbus, Ohio, and that road is busy. So I had never let them go that far by themselves. And I was absolutely not going to let them go. I
Right.
couldn't get them there. I was not going to let them go by themselves. And they just knew that they were ready to go cross Sullivan all on their own. And I'm just like, no, it's not happening, sweetie. You just need to, not this time. And at 8 or 9 years old, she ran into her bedroom, slammed the door, and
Oh,
screamed, "You're ruining my
yeah. That's all it takes.
life!" That is one of my favorite stories because I remember standing there in the dining room, which the bedroom was right off the dining room. I remember standing there thinking, okay, I either get really mad at this and confront this right now, or I need to laugh at this and call Joe.
Yeah.
I think for everyone's sanity, I chose the right one and laughed and called
Absolutely.
Joe.
Laugh and call. It's the laugh and
Like,
call.
you
Yeah,
believe what
exactly.
your kid just did to me.
Yeah, they're your kids now.
Yes. Oh, that started in infancy with that one. Oh my gosh.
Oh,
She
sure.
she was daddy's girl from the get-go.
Yep.
And there were days when she wouldn't stop crying at all. I could not comfort this child. And Joe would walk in the front door and I'd be like, here.
That's funny. Oh my gosh.
And then just to spite me, she'd stop crying as soon as he was holding her.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was, though. It was just spite.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what daddies and daughters.
Yep.
I have one too. I have one too. And to this
So,
day, I am absolutely wrapped.
yep. Yep. And
Got
Joe was too. Joe was too. He called her Tootsie Pop from the get-go. Still does.
That's
And
awesome, though.
then we had 2 more. I don't know what we were thinking, but
Hey, so, but three's a good number.
it was a good number.
A good
Yeah,
number.
we always when we first got together, we were in high school when we started dating. And when
Wow.
we started really talking about marriage when we were in college, we're like, okay, well, kids, we want kids, right? And we're both like, yeah, we want kids. We both come from, families with multiples. And we're like, okay, so do how many kids do we want? And we kind of agreed. We kind of and you want to hear God laugh, tell him your plans, right? So
Exactly. That's exactly right.
yeah, so
Exactly right.
we had agreed. Well, two is a good number. We don't want one. We don't want to stop at one. So two if we have one of each gender, right? And so we had Ray, and then little over a year later, we got pregnant and found out twins, and found out that
Gotcha.
9 weeks into that pregnancy, we found out, yeah, twins, and then found out that they were both girls. And so we're like, well, okay, we said three, but was that 3 kids or 3 pregnancies? So I asked Joe once when I was still pregnant with the twins. I said, I'm pretty good at this, if you really want a boy, we can try
We'll try
again.
again.
Yeah, and he looked at me like I had a duckbill growing out of my forehead or something. He's like, "You know twins are possible. You really want to take that chance?"
Oh my gosh. It's a funny because it's like we talk about how many kids, but we don't say, hey, one of these might be twins or triplets or what. I mean, do we stop or what do we, it's
Yeah,
number of pregnancies, so that's so
yeah. And
so
then, like oh, well, let's adopt. Sure.
yeah. Well, when he was 10, and now we're back in Connecticut, it's like, well, we need to make this official. And we really just went to the probate judge in New Milford, Connecticut, and did the whole adoption thing properly. And we had to get a hold of his natural father and get him to sign off on everything. And Shelley had never. That's another part of the story is where Shelley never asked him, Joel's natural dad, for anything, no support, no nothing.
Mm,
And we were kind of like almost thinking, boy, if we try to get a hold of him, he probably won't return our calls because he's thinking that we're coming after him for money or something. But we just were coming after him for not even coming after him, but just asking him for a release.
release, yeah.
Yeah, and he granted that, which was again, that was God's grace over the whole thing. That was a good
Mhm.
thing. And at the time, Joel was 10. So we're still clashing, but we were kind of doing some right things.
Yeah. Yeah. And how did you said you adopted James as well? How did
No,
that?
James is ours. James is ours and
Oh,
Alyssa is
okay.
ours. Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
If I
okay, okay.
misspoke, my fault. I apologize. But no, James and Alyssa are fully Shelley and I.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I don't know if you misspoke or I misheard, but there was a
It
miss in
could have
there.
been both. You never know. We only have 12.5% left. So
Exactly.
see,
So in
you were
the
right. I will never
of
forget that
us.
now. I will always use it. I will look at people and say, I have three kids. I only have 12.5% left. If you don't know what that means, call Cat.
It's crazy calls. What the heck is 12.5%? We should start a club, the twelve and a
We
half
could
percent
with
Club.
t-shirts.
Yes. Yeah.
September 12th, t-shirts, 12.5%. And on the back, it's what and 12.5%. What does it mean? Ask Cat.
I can't remember. Ask me tomorrow.
That's great.
Oh my gosh.
Who
So
knew we'd be having so much fun, right?
what's that?
Who knew we would be having so much fun?
I did. I
Okay,
knew.
I did too. I was expecting to have fun.
Yeah, we've known each other long enough.
Long enough. Yep, definitely. Definitely. Not stopping.
No, no. So how old was Joel when James came along?
Well, let's see. 7?
Oh wow.
Yeah. Yep. James
Okay.
is born in 90. Yeah, so yeah, 7.
Wow.
I just
And
had to
then
do the math in
a
my head.
little brother to boot.
Yeah.
So,
Oh yeah. And they're
oh,
great buddies to this day. They are great
okay.
buddies to this day.
So there wasn't like a sibling rivalry thing going on?
No,
Oh,
real
wow.
interesting how that went. They became and stayed close forever. All three of the kids are very close,
Oh, that's great.
and Alyssa basically keeps her brothers in line, little sister.
Of course. She's the de facto mom.
Oh my gosh. So true. So well said. De facto mom, definitely. Where's my brothers? Let me at them.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. I'm a little sister too.
De
Yes.
facto mom.
I do get it. Yes, I was always looking for ways that I needed to correct my older brother.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Just makes sense.
Not even realizing just how much of a brat I was being, but no, I had to make sure he was in line.
That's hilarious. That is hilarious. I love it. I love it.
So it's just human nature, I think.
Mhm. Oh yeah. No
And then
question
okay,
about it.
so Joel was 10 when or no, 7 when James was born.
Yep.
And then how much older are they that to
Al
Alyssa?
Alyssa is 10 years younger than Joel. So Three
Okay.
years later, Alyssa was born.
Oh,
She was born in
wow.
93. So James was 90, Alyssa was 93, and Joel's 83.
83. So 10 years between big brother and little sister. Yeah. But she's
De
still,
facto mom. Yep.
yep.
She doesn't let him get away with anything ever, ever, ever.
Oh my gosh,
It's
that's
so
so
much fun to watch.
I
Just
I
fun to
always
watch.
I enjoy so much hearing about the family dynamics in these interviews. It always, well, not always, but it usually does come up, family dynamics. And
Oh yeah.
everyone's, of course, is a little different, but they all have that little through line of the same in it. And it's just so fun to recognize that, I think. It's
Oh
like,
yeah.
I get
Oh
that.
yeah. I mean, there's such a biblical model for that. It's family is represented throughout. How to be a family represented throughout the Word of God. And so that's really, if you look at our story, if you were to take our story,
Hmm.
that's what we've tried to pursue is to become that. But,
Mm.
throughout that journey, there's a lot of, hills, valleys,
Of
hitches,
course.
failures, successes, all of it.
Well, yeah, because you're okay. So going back to the beginning, because you're, 27 years old, you're, yes, you're an adult, but you are a baby Christian
Baby Christian.
and like head first into the deep end of being a father. You had no prep time. There was
Instant.
no lead in.
Nope.
Nope. Yeah. And
Nope. And I didn't grow up in a quote unquote born again family.
okay.
I grew up where my dad didn't go to church except for on the holidays. My mom grew up in a very strong Catholic family, and and so she took the kids to church. My dad
Mm.
said my mom's told us this story, since, that my dad said, look, I want to get married, but I'm not going to become a Catholic. I'm not converting. And he's
Oh,
Lutheran. He grew up Lutheran, but like
okay.
non-participating, it's like
Gotcha.
don't really go to church, that kind of thing. But anyway, um, that's where I came from. And so, mom took us to church. I knew about God. I knew about Jesus. I knew about that kind of thing. But um, it was not hard for me to just step away. For me, being a Catholic was, and growing up in Ridgefield, Connecticut, being a Catholic was kind of like a badge that I wore. It got down to the point where I would go to church on Saturday afternoon to get it taken care of, right?
Okay.
To handle my responsibility as a Catholic.
Sure.
But it did not, all of that, saying all that to say that where I came from in the family that I grew up in, I grew up in a strong family. My parents, strong marriage, stayed together. My dad, who just passed away a couple of years ago, both of them became born again, later in life, which was really cool. And it started with Shelley leading me to Jesus. And then it kind of spread through our family through most of it, which is, again, that's a whole other testimony. But to see that happen after, in growing up in my family, before the move to California and all that kind of stuff, good relationship with my dad to an extent, except for that, I had this unhealthy thing that no matter what, I have to impress him or I have to please him, as opposed to
Mm.
pursuing what I really wanted to pursue and who God built me to be, that kind of thing. So there was that stress, let's call it that, and so I didn't really come from a model that I could emulate and then bring into my own marriage. I had to learn it from, see, I kept my prop ready to go. You saw this last time you saw us live, right? That's where I had to learn it from, and it takes time. It took time. It didn't happen overnight. It's still taking time. It's still happening, that there's no such thing as arriving, and
Right.
so that takes a lot of the pressure off too, because it's kind of a privilege to be on the journey and continue the journey on this little short thing, this short span of time that we call life.
Yeah. Yeah, from the time that they could really, I think, understand what I was talking about, and let me preface this with saying I think this was one of the big steps in in having a closer relationship with my kids was me humbly telling them, look, I am making this up as I go. I didn't have a good model growing up. Your dad didn't have a good model growing up. All we have is the church and what we think is right. And
Uh,
if we're human, we're going to get it wrong. We're going to make
sure,
mistakes.
sure.
And unfortunately, those are going to be your therapy moments in the future.
Yeah, they can be tough moments, but in the end, when we get to have conversations like this,
Hmm.
where it's like the tragedy becomes a triumph or the struggle becomes a victory, that kind of thing, without, I'm trying not to be cliche, but you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
it leads to, a good result or a good ending or a good thing happening.
Yeah. Yeah. And it seems like when we're right in it, you kind of touched on this earlier when you said, we can become those woe is me people.
Yeah,
Because when you're in it, it's all encompassing. That's you wake up and you're in that stress, and you go to bed and you're still in that stress, and there's no resolve, and it's day after day after day. And it's very easy to just focus on that source of stress.
completely.
And but when you get to the other side, hopefully, you guys got to the other side. Joe and I have gotten to the other side with our kids.
For
We
sure.
have good relationship, thankfully, with all three of them. And, you know, it's, it's, I think it's where I personally, it's where I hoped we would be, but I had no clue how we were going to get there when we were in it,
Right. Right.
you know?
Oh, sure.
And you would hear the stories from other people who had been through it and say, it gets better, it gets better. Just keep at it. Don't give up, and all that. And you're like, how? You're like, I don't know, it just does.
It just does. It just does. And it's all I can tell people, along that lines is that that's our experience. That's what, we sought the Lord for help and he did, and instead of
And
trying to do things in our own strength, you said, mentioned about God's plans and our plans, and
mhm.
his plans are always better.
Always,
Yeah.
always. I mean, look at what your life would be, I've done this before too, try to imagine what your life would have been like had you gone out to California and became a hit.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm telling you, I
you
mean,
wouldn't have any of this.
I think about those I have those thoughts every now and then. What if,
Yeah,
but that wasn't God's plan.
no, no,
The California thing turned into a great thing because that's where I got saved. That's where I met Shelly, you
right,
know. But in terms of what I thought California was supposed to be, nowhere near,
right.
nowhere near,
But he
nowhere
had it
near.
laid out from the get-go.
Yeah. So he used a lot of things early on in my first months out there, and I'm starting to audition for bands in Los Angeles and
Mhm.
literally showing up for these auditions. Dude, can you learn 30 songs by Saturday? We have a party, and lead guitar player sitting on a stool, dude, what's up? And bare feet and eating Twinkies. And I'm like, what in the world? It wasn't all shiny and glamorous that I was expecting
Right.
by any means. And then, getting callbacks from bands that I didn't want to be in, and not getting called back from bands that I did want to be in. And I'm like, man, this is not, but that was God's plan. God knew, it's like, I got to drive this dude up to, he can go to LA all he wants, but he's not staying there. He needs to go up north and meet Shelly, because the summer before we met, the summer that I was planning on and saying, I'm going to move out to California, summer of 85,
Mhm.
not 85, 84 or 3, I think it was 83. Yeah, it was the summer of 83 because that's when Joel had already been born in 83. And that summer, his parents or Shelly and her parents were praying for a father for Joel.
Wow.
And that summer, I made my decision to move to California. Go figure. Go
As
figure.
Christian, it's awfully hard to believe in coincidences, right?
It really is. It really is because we didn't find those things out till later. Wait a minute, really? And we started putting the two and two together and going, oh my gosh. Because I remember the times in that summer of '83 having the discussions with uh, the guy that I moved out there with, and there was one other guy that we went out with as well. We met him halfway, and then the two cars we went out to Los Angeles. But anyway, um, having meetings together and planning our trip, and it all started that summer, and it was the same summer that Shelly and her parents were praying for a dad for Joel. That's just, that can only be God.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You can't write that stuff. It fits too perfectly.
Right,
No, I
right,
believe
right. So we didn't make that stuff up.
it. No. But
No.
that's how he works.
Yeah.
He knew.
Yep.
I always liken it to, if you look at a tapestry, those woven tapestries
Sure.
people do. If you look at it from the front, it's this beautiful picture and it's all the beautiful threads interwoven and everyone is in a perfect place so that you get this picture. But if you look at it from the back, all you get is like a shadow of what could be and everything's a tangled mess and you can't really tell what's going where. Well, that's the only vision we have to heaven is
Yeah.
that shadowed mess.
Yeah.
God's
That's a
on the other
great
side, just
picture. Yep.
weaving everything together.
So true. So true. But just gotta take it a day at a time, you
Yep.
know?
That
Yep.
is so cool. That is such a cool story. Like, you guys should write a book.
Yeah, people have said it, and we probably will someday. That'll probably be part of the next phase in this journey of writing and doing stuff together and everything. There's just too much testimony, that
Yeah.
we love to share our testimony because we can brag on God,
Hmm. Yeah.
and while we're bragging on God, hopefully, give people hope or, what they, something that they need or that they can use that's, not necessarily tangible, but very meaningful, in terms of where they might be in their lives. And because we have a lot of been there, done that,
Yeah.
we really do. And sometimes that's what somebody that you're ministering to, they'll hear you better or receive you better because it's like, I'd like to learn something from somebody that really has already been through it,
Exactly.
and that would make more sense to me than a theory,
Right. Right.
or an
It was,
opinion.
yeah, my the first worship minister I really worked with, he was one of our first guests, George Tift. He used to say, he'd look at me, he goes, if I tried to tell you what it was like to be pregnant, you wouldn't listen to me.
There you go.
Yeah. But I can tell you what it's like to be in prison. I can tell you what it's like to be in the military. I can tell you what it's like to be suicidal. And I have that experience and it's actually biblical that God allows us to go through those so that we can be a help for other people.
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. And it really
100%.
was. That's what I was touching on, when you're in that thick of, oh my gosh, how am I ever going to survive? And where are we going to, how is this family going to survive? Um, you have those examples from the other side of people saying, no, you just keep praying, keep one day at a time. And it really is that reminder that no, God's in this. This isn't taking God by surprise at all.
Nope, not at all. No surprises.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
So
Made
cool.
on purpose for a purpose.
Exactly. I think we just had church.
Amen, brother. That's what these are all about. I mean, we always find these ways to I mean, that's what worship is about. Just bringing it
Yeah.
back, giving him all the
Worship, we relate it to music all the time. We call certain kind of music worship music and all that, and that exists, but really it's our lifestyle,
yeah.
honoring God with everything that we do. That's what it
Amen.
boils down to, and
Amen.
and uh and learning that, as someone that professes to be a Christ follower, when we learn that, it becomes than our, genuine presentation of Christ to everyone.
Hmm. So let me ask you this. I kind of want to go back to the beginning, so to speak. Baby Christian, newlywed, in your father-in-law's employ, basically. Were you the kind of Christian who, like I was like, oh, I'm not ready for that yet. I'm not a good enough Christian yet. I'm not a mature enough Christian, or were you just the all-in kind of person with the worship and everything?
That is a great question. My personality was reflected in my Christianity, so to speak, and I'll explain it this way. It's like I remember right after I received Jesus in my heart, and I was in my car by myself driving down this main drag in Concord, California, and I looked in my rearview mirror and I got this picture of there's no going back. You're
Mm,
not going back. You've received Jesus, so all that stuff that's in the rearview mirror now. It's all your stuff that you used to do. It's in the past. You're not going anywhere else. You're all in. So I was kind of an all-in guy, but I'm like one of these. My personality is like I'm going to be this like serious bang the Bible over your head type of. My personality wasn't like that. It was always, with a smile on my face, almost sometimes cavalier.
mhm,
Take it as it comes, learn it as it comes. I know what I know now, and I guess I'll learn more later. But I wasn't like fire and brimstone, but my heart was wide open
mhm,
for everything. My heart was wide open. The only thing that frustrated me was that I thought as a Christian, unity was something that was real important to me early on. And I even wrote a song about it that's on my first album called Bond of Peace out of Ephesians 4. And I would get upset that, I would assume that Christians agreed on everything.
We are the most dysfunctional family
Oh
there
my
is.
gosh. And it frustrated me to no end.
Yeah.
And no end. And I'm just being honest. That's how it was for me. I'm like, wait a minute, you don't what? We don't agree on that? What? I thought we were Christian. It'd be really, really or I'd hear people say things and I'd be like scratching my head. But then again, who am I? So, it got to the point where again, okay, if I hear something and I'm not sure, go to the word, you
Mhm.
know, and just grow from there. And then understand that as humans, yeah, I mean, even the disciples, they did not agree on everything. They were
Yeah.
very dysfunctional. And
Yeah.
so that brought comfort. But I'm just saying, when I was first, you asked me about being a baby Christian, and I mean, I was all in, wide open to it, but, went through a lot of times of frustration because I was like, I thought we were all kind of like on the same page, but maybe we're not. Does that answer the question? I hope that makes sense.
It absolutely does. It absolutely does. So how did that reflect in how you approached worship?
Well, that is another great question. I don't know where you get all your questions, but I'll talk to you offline.
I am making it up as I go.
No way. You got to be kidding me.
Uh,
Well, you're
the-
good. You're
I
very
give this
good.
all to God. I
You're
give this
very
all to
good.
God.
Yep. And I love it. But um, with regard to the music thing, like I said, I used to try to emulate and sound a certain way. But what was funny, as I was doing that, leading worship Shelly and I have only been a part of three churches in 38 years.
Wow.
The church in California, and then the church in New Milford, Connecticut, and then here in Waterbury. And in each one, I've led worship. And when I lead worship, who I am, even though I was trying to emulate supposedly, would come out. My passion, the rock side of me, the rock presentation side of me, the way I sing the songs, the way I present, what I would do in worship, it really isn't what you see me do in the Blameless Project. Can't really tell the difference. It's just different song, maybe different musicians playing, and so I approached it just without even thinking that I'm going to be me. It was like I did it because I didn't know any other way. I presented, worship. I presented a certain style that was really just me being trying to be genuine, even though
Yeah.
I thought in my head and my heart that if only I would just emulate and I could start sounding like this, what I'm hearing in, on this and wow, who knows? We could write some great songs and get them out there and we could have our own worship ministry and record worship songs and get into that, vein, but which never happened. Well, I don't know
I'm
why, but
only laughing because how many times have I said to myself, man, if I could only just sound like Hillsong.
oh, so you get it.
I do.
Yeah.
Do.
And so to this day, now I thank God that I and my band and then like when my wife and I do worship together, we sound like we sound. We're not trying to emulate anybody,
Yeah.
and we'll play a familiar worship song and but it's not going to sound like somebody else, It's not going to
Yeah.
sound like it's going to sound like us,
That's
you
so
know.
cool.
Even
That's
cadence.
where you and I are different because I let myself be intimidated by that
Yeah.
early on. It took
Yeah.
me a long time to have the confidence in who God made me to be, to really present the way that is me and is authentic. I felt like a caricature of a worship leader for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the church has done a good job at painting that picture.
Yeah, they
The
really have.
American church, painting what is the worship leader supposed to be like? What is a worship leader supposed to sound like? What is,
Hmm.
Nashville, you know, makes peanut butter and jelly sandwiches all day long and calls it Christian music, my opinion, right? But it's all cookie cutter, same chords. It's got to be the same shape. It's got to be same length. It's got to be the same key. It's got to be,
Yep.
everything.
Oh,
And
down to the Mad Lib fill in the blank lyrics.
correct,
God is
exactly,
put in
exactly.
expression of weather phenomena.
Yep. Thank you. Yeah, exactly. And for me, that always went against my grain. I would run into a lot of friction with leadership when I would try to present the idea of, hey, let's start writing our own songs.
Yeah.
We're playing songs that other people wrote. Why don't we start injecting songs that we write? Why don't we do that? Why don't we do that? And God never put me in a church where the leadership said, yeah, that's a good idea. It was always, no,
Mm.
we need to keep it familiar.
Yeah. Yeah,
We
that
need to
good
keep
old
it
familiar.
familiar. And again, nothing wrong with that. That's just the way certain ministries are. Other ministries are all about creating a sound and getting it out there.
Yeah.
There's a place for both.
Yeah, but
Get
it's
that,
like
but
where do you think Elevation Music came from? It came from
exactly,
Elevation Church, from the
exactly. All the
worship.
songs that you sing on Sunday, where did they come from? Somebody
Yes.
else. They came from another church, every single one of them, or
Yeah,
another Christian worship minister or whomever. But
exactly.
and so
Exactly.
as a songwriter, I was, back and forth. And it's interesting. And you're gonna hear this. Can I announce like a new music song on this that
Yeah,
you
do
guys are
it.
gonna hear on September 12th? I wrote back probably early 2000s, maybe 2011, 12, 13, somewhere around there. And I wrote a song called Sound of Creation.
Hmm.
And when the Blameless Project first started, we recorded a 3-song demo, and that particular song made it on the demo, but then it got shelved, and it's been collecting dust, for over 10 years. So this year we decided to bring it back out. In fact, just over the last couple of months, we decided to bring it back out and tweak it a little bit. It's more of an acoustic, worship anthem type song, and it's coming out. But it was a song that I originally wrote thinking this is something that the church could start playing every week, and we could just make this part of our sound, and it never became that. But we have the Blameless Project, and so and 3 of us are in worship ministry already as well as the band, so it just made sense. So now we have it, and you're going to hear it on the 12th.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome. So I'm trying to remember my calendar. The 12th, you're actually going to be at our Fall Fest, right?
we are. We are. It's our privilege.
So you're going to debut this at our Fall Fest?
It's actually going to be a second because I don't want to be a liar because
Okay.
somebody might. We're playing a brand new venue in Waterbury on August 23rd,
Okay.
and so it's we're going to debut it there, but it's
Okay.
indoors instead of outdoors. So,
Oh, so ours is the first outdoor. Weather permitting, please God.
oh, please God, been good so far. Right
Uh,
now, I mean, this whole time I've been listening out my window, thunderstorms. Can
yes.
you too?
Yeah, they rolled through here too. Yep.
Yeah, hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah. For those of you who aren't familiar with Connecticut, Bristol and Waterbury are only about 15 miles apart.
That's right. We are very close by.
Oh my goodness. Yes, and that is so cool. That is so cool.
Yeah, so
Really
it's
looking
going to
forward to
be
that.
a lot of fun, and I would write songs, that I wanted them to become worship songs, and there's a few of them now that are Blameless Project songs,
That's cool.
so the band just presents them, and they are what they are. But so instead of having the outlet from within the ministry that God has us, it's been more the band. That's where the music writing and that outlet, and it's become just amazing. Now it's 3 albums, more songs on the way, a bunch of videos just released this year, from the promo video that we have to a solo video I did, and which you'll be hearing that for the first time live with the band, that particular song.
Very cool.
Break the Spell. That'll be on September. It's on the set list for the 12th. We're already working on the 12th, so on the set
Awesome.
list. We're fired up for that. And so yeah, it's just that's the way it's rolled, and having the band as an outlet, and releasing all this stuff, and like I said, the videos and everything else. It's just been amazing because now we just have all these ways to, because remember what I said in the beginning was we're a rock band, and the music that I write is high energy and all of that, but the message is without compromise. It's, I get my inspiration to write songs. I'll read a scripture, and in fact I wrote on my board back there, Psalm 1846 song. So I'm going to go back there, and it inspired me. I was, reading it the other day, and I'm probably going to write a song wrapped around that. So
Remind me what Psalm 1846 is.
let's open it up. I will, because I don't want to mess it up.
I am so bad with addresses. I cannot remember chapter and verse.
That's why I write them down on my big whiteboard,
That is so smart.
because I'm 64 and I only have 12.5%. So it says,
I only have 12.5%. That's why I don't have a whiteboard because I haven't figured out how to put it up yet. Anyway.
right. Well, I wrote down in my notes in here, and I circled it, but um, the chorus is verse 46. It's Psalm 18:46. The Lord lives. Blessed be my rock. Let the God of my salvation be exalted. And it just flows so well that it could be, a tremendous chorus.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
but but that whole psalm is about crying out to God, and letting the people sing and all of that. And so, um, I just it just I guess I was reading it within the last, I don't know, month or something like that, because I wrote it down. It meant a lot to me, so I wrote it down on the board there, right there. Can't read it. That's what I want.
See, I make notes to myself and I go back and ask myself what the heck I was thinking.
Yeah. I do that too. Yeah. If it's on
What
the board, then I'm pretty
I,
serious
I
about
I just did that recently because my co-lead for worship and also in our secular band, Forgotten by Friday,
it. Great
he ended
band, by the way.
up
Forgotten
getting
by Friday.
and doing some writing. And yeah, so I'm looking back at some notes that I had made it was in the last year or so. And I made a specific little tab, album ideas, and there's a couple of descriptors, and then sort of along the lines of Alison Krauss and Robert Plant. And I'm like, what am I thinking?
Big Robert Plant fan here.
Oh my gosh, have you heard what he's done with Alison Krauss?
Oh yeah, amazing.
It's
Who would have
beautiful,
thunk that one?
right?
Who would have thought that those two would get together and do what they did?
I know. I know. And it's absolutely beautiful.
Really
I,
is. Really
I
is.
love it.
Yeah, he is well, he was one of the guys that I really followed and listened to a lot. I was a big Led Zepp fan back in the 70s and, you know, and throughout, and still their musical influence and now becoming a guitar player later in life because I didn't play guitar till I was in my 50s.
Okay.
But what that did was really open my eyes to the genius of some of the music that I used to listen to and even some of the music that I would hear but didn't want to listen to because I thought it was just too whatever, you know,
Yeah.
and I would be almost snobbish about it.
Yeah.
But go
No,
learn
I'm
an
never like
instrument
that.
and it'll change your yeah, changed my mind quite a bit. But yeah, all that aside, I mean Led Zepp was always one of my favorite and musically,
Yeah.
huge influence. Huge
It's
influence.
hard to find anyone in our generation who hasn't been influenced. I
Oh
mean, in
yeah.
some form or another, even if you say, well, I never cared for Led Zeppelin, but I liked so and so, chances are so and so was influenced by Zeppelin.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And all of them were influenced by the Beatles. So,
Right. Right.
and
They all
and that's
started with John and Paul.
exactly. And that's okay. It's okay,
It is.
And so it's like don't get all religious. It's
Right.
okay.
Yeah, we always told our kids you don't have to like the music to appreciate the talent and the
Right.
artistry.
That's
Right?
exactly
I
right.
say that about rap all the
So
time.
well said. So well said.
Yeah. Like I don't care to listen to a lot of rap, but there's a lot of talent in a lot of those artists.
To do what they do is
Right.
it's extreme and it's not my cup of tea either, but it's just to do what they do
Right.
is I
And
that's
some
it's
of that lyricism is absolute
genius.
poetry.
Yeah,
It's
it really
beautiful.
is. And the cadence that the
Yes.
lyrics come out of mouths with and all that is just it's pretty
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of there are a couple of Christian rap artists that I've gotten just I've gotten exposed to
Hmm.
through one of my students in particular. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I'm not going to be able to remember.
Well, there's a lot in our area, Cat, a lot of Christian rap artists
I've heard that
in the
too.
greater Waterbury. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that too. And the things that they have, the ideas that they have and the thoughts that they have is just like, wow,
Oh
where'd you
yeah.
come up with that?
It's it's
As a lyricist, I want to know where you came up with that.
exactly. It's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy, but it's good.
Yeah,
It's really good stuff and it ministers to a lot of people.
it does.